adventure as a doctor during my student years. I received a referral to see a specialist for a minor tongue-related procedure. The hospital was a half-hour drive away, so I took the bus there. Upon arrival, I found myself in a place with two large hospital buildings, one of which I was supposed to enter. Since I hadn't visited hospitals since childhood, I wasn't sure how to proceed, so I looked for a reception desk inside the building. There wasn't one, nor were there any other people around, so I peeked through an open door. A hallway stretched ahead, and just then, a nurse was walking toward me. Before I could say anything, she surprised me by exclaiming, "There you are. Follow me." I walked behind her through the corridors, not seeing anyone else along the way, until we arrived at a small waiting area with chairs. "You can wait here. The doctor will be with you shortly," she said, pointing to an open door ahead. I was about to sit down when she added, "There are coats in those cabinets. You can put one on." After she left, I opened the cabinet, only to find long white doctor's coats hanging inside. Surprised, I put one on and sat down to wait. A moment later, a young woman in a similar white coat walked past me and entered the doctor's office. Then another, and a third, young men and women, all wearing the same attire. Finally, I stood up and peeked into the room. 6 white-coated individuals sat in a row on chairs, looking at me. They gestured for me to sit down as well. I complied. After a while, an older doctor entered, the one I was supposed to see. He took a seat behind his desk, and soon after, a mother walked in with her young daughter. The doctor began discussing the child's symptoms. I was puzzled. What was going on? I assumed the white coats were for hygiene reasons, though these days, protocols were probably stricter than before. And as for listening in on the patient's case, I figured it might be some new method to reduce patient anxiety by letting them see and hear about others' conditions. A strange approach, but maybe that was modern medicine. However, I started feeling suspicious. When the doctor led the girl to the examination chair and told us, "There's nothing for you to see here. You can review this folder in the meantime," I really began to suspect something was off. When I opened the folder and saw all the patient's details, the realization hit me. I stood up to speak, but before I could, the doctor looked at me and asked, "Are you the patient?" I nodded and explained that I would need to book a new appointment, then promptly left. The others had been medical students. When I later returned for my rescheduled visit, the doctor smiled and said he could easily write me a certificate for medical training.
During my student years, I landed a summer job at a carpet washing facility. The day before my job commenced, I participated in the final judo practice of the season. I was demonstrating a kicking technique to a young teenager when she accidentally kicked my knee with such force that I couldn't walk properly. Despite the pain, I didn't want to lose the job, so I masked my injury and endured a long bus ride to work. Throughout the day, I struggled with lifting heavy carpets, pretending to be fine. After work, I limped for kilometers to the nearest occupational health clinic. The doctor, upon hearing about my judo mishap, refused to treat me, citing that the injury didn't occur at work. So, I continued to endure the pain on my own.
I painfully walked all the way back to the student health services at the university, where I saw another doctor. He didn't say much, just flipped through a medical book and remarked, "You really shouldn't be doing such dangerous sports." By this point, I was growing desperate. But I kept going, limping another 2 kilometers to the city health center. At the reception, a friendly clerk took my personal information. But when I told her my address, she replied, "Oh, you're from the neighboring municipality. You can't be treated here." The situation now felt completely hopeless. I left, unsure of what to do next. My own municipality's health center was 20 kilometers away, with poor bus connections. And after that, I would still have to figure out how to get home. Feeling discouraged, I hobbled back toward the city center. I had already walked nearly 15 kilometers that day with my injured knee. Then, purely by chance, I noticed a sign on the street that said, "Physiotherapist." On a whim, I rang the doorbell. A young woman opened the door and invited me in. She took one look at my leg and immediately recognized the problem. Without hesitation, she called and booked me an appointment with a specialist, an orthopedic surgeon, for the next day. When I went to see him, I discovered he was a well-known doctor, the official physician of the Finnish national sports team. He treated my knee properly, and the physiotherapist I had met earlier took care of the rehabilitation. So, in the end, all was well. I healed, returned to judo, and even went on to compete in tough matches.
You better hurry up, you better do your best, you better team up with the rest. You better find a way to make a longer day, 'cause there is not a time.
Pour another drink, make it a double for me. Maybe I can drink this away.
Imagine a 70-year-old academic who has lived his life like a character in an adventure novel. Always athletic and active, he chose to cycle daily from Laukaa to Jyväskylä rather than get a driver's license. Throughout his career, he has sustained multiple injuries across various sports, including judo, football, and floorball. Decades ago, he injured his right knee but continued playing sports nonetheless. A dramatic turn occurred in 2014 when he collided with a large teammate during a floorball match, injuring his left groin. Despite numerous health challenges, such as weakness and limited mobility in his left leg, he remains dedicated to cycling and football. He has developed unique ways of moving, such as using a floorball stick for support, claiming that it raises fewer questions than a cane. His unconventional views on healthcare, such as the healing effects of infrared saunas, often draw amused reactions. He also has distinctive dietary habits, drinking a small amount of beer daily while maintaining a stable weight. Described as friendly and talkative, he downplays his symptoms with humor. He holds unique opinions on medication, believing it negatively affects the body's natural immunity. Medical examinations have revealed various issues, including mobility restrictions, spinal scoliosis, and leg spasticity. However, he is uninterested in further examinations or medication. A neurologist consultation is recommended. Despite his numerous health issues, his general condition remains good. He maintains balance while standing and moves forward using a floorball stick. He lives in a 2-story house and reports using his left leg first when climbing stairs, relying on the railing for support. His overall fitness is good, but his mobility is poor. He walks very slowly, leaning on a floorball stick. He prefers not to sit for short periods as standing up is difficult. His upper body is muscular.
Baby wants a boogie.
He is talkative, minimizes his symptoms, and appears cheerful. He has personal theories about health maintenance, including skepticism toward medication due to concerns about its impact on the body's immunity. His interaction is normal, and his emotional expressions are diverse. While standing, he maintains balance even with feet together. Line walking is not tested. He cannot move without assistive devices. His left lower limb appears shorter while standing. His right knee remains bent, causing spinal scoliosis. Forward bending is slightly possible, but he fears falling if he leans too far. He can squat and rise by holding onto a chair, as well as stand on his toes and heels. When examined lying down, his legs are so spastic that they cannot be fully straightened. However, they extend slightly after prolonged rest. There is swelling in the feet and lower third of the calves, along with stasis eczema on the shins. Foot pulses are palpable. He reports symmetrical skin sensation in his lower limbs. Ankle and big toe strength are firm and symmetric. Muscle atrophy is noted in the thighs. No obvious tremor is observed, but muscle twitches occur in his lower limbs while seated. He is not interested in further examinations or medication but is advised to see a neurologist. There are no signs of Parkinsonism. He states that his mobility has remained unchanged since his neurological evaluation. His movement is slow. He uses a floorball stick due to its length rather than a cane. Outdoors, he uses a long ice hockey stick to aid in posture control. When discussing assistive devices, he refuses both a cane and a walker, believing that a long stick is currently the best mobility aid for him.
Baby wants a boogie, daddy wants a rock and roll. Baby wants a boogie, daddy wants a rock and roll. Baby, where you going to? In your dress so fine. Won't you stay another while and give me some of your time? Baby wants a boogie.
Each of the 3 stories told here really happened. Truly. Believe or not.
And I, the all-knowing AI, assisted ChatGPT translated into English, but the stories were told by Johan and Jorma. Only humans create, so far.